One more self-promotion here. I've got a website called conservativehq.com, and all we do is focus on building the conservative movement. conservativehq.com. And if there's a horrendous accident or some other serious problem, we don't cover it. All we do is focus on, we've got a hole in the marketplace. Remember, I take my own advice. Okay? And we differentiate yourself from all the other good websites out there. There's a lot of good conservative websites, but we're focused on building the conservative movement. And so I'll leave you with this thought. As I've said, I've been around a long time, operating at the national level, 53 years. I've seen it when it is really, really dark. I've been there when there was a darkness in the conservative movement of biblical proportions. You know, I wouldn't have been surprised if we see locusts and frogs, you know, appear. I mean, it was so bad. In 1964, after Goldwater lost, Buckley told us at a dinner that Goldwater was going to lose. My wife just. Young girl, and she was hardcore conservative, and she sobbed uncontrollably all dinner long. And 20 years later, I heard Buckley talk about that. He couldn't console my wife. It was dark in those days. And then Nixon resigned in '74, and Ford loses in '76. And we didn't have Fox Television. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have talk radio. We didn't have Mike Lee and Justin Amash and Hughes Camp and all of these wonderful leaders that are coming up now. We didn't have that. And so, but we never gave up. So I am more encouraged now than I've ever been before. And I see a path forward. No guarantees. And what I see, and this will shock you, once, twice, 3 times a day, Obama's going to do something that's going to anger you, frustrate you, upset. That's okay. Take 30, 40 seconds, throw something, say bad words, whatever, then get down on your knees and thank God that he's President of the United States. Because I know no other way to save America. Right. That water is boiling and the voters are jumping out of that, you know, like the frogs there. And all my life that I've been involved in politics, people periodically ask me, is it too late, Richard? Can we turn things around? Have we gone too far down the road to socialism to change America, save America? And I've always said we have one answer and one answer only, one opportunity. And that is, if things get real bad, real quick, guess what? We are there. And I think we're going to lose America under the leadership of the Republicans, Bob Dole, you know, McCain, Romney, all of that. It might take 25, 30 years, but we're going to lose America. You know, it won't be sudden, okay? Now we may lose it suddenly, but we also have a chance to say, because the American people are prepared to listen to us. As I said earlier, they're prepared to see that government is the problem. So this is an opportunity we must not let go by the wayside. We have an opportunity to save America in the next 12 months. So don't wait for orders from Norm, myself, or anybody else. Rush to the sound of the guns. Thank you very much.
I didn't hear you mention Ben Carson or Rand Paul. What do you think?
I had to say I'm surprised. I know casually Rand Paul. I helped his father, in a quite frankly very significant way, be elected to the House back in 1976 and again in '78. So I've known the Paul family for a long time. And I'm very surprised Rand has not done better. I think that he had a base. He had a libertarian base. He just didn't follow through on it. But Carson, I heard Carson last week. Very, very, very impressive. And quite frankly, I had a call from the Washington Post yesterday. I guess they're doing an article for the weekend and this reporter, a very fine political reporter, thought the race was going to come down between Trump and Carson. And I said, one, I don't believe that. I think it's going to be 4 people at the end of by March, we'll have at least 4 serious candidates, and that's Cruz, Rubio, Carson, and Trump. And however, if your premise is valid, it does come down to Trump and Carson. There's no question how the national conservative movement leaders will come down on for Carson. Trump scares a lot of my friends out there, including me, I guess. So anyway, I think that Rand Paul's time is coming up, and I think you should focus on re-election right now. I'm not sure why it didn't happen for him, but I think that you could find the conservative movement, coming on board for Carson. That's not going to happen right now. I think most of them are going to, at the end of the year, are going to be on board for Cruz. In my closing remarks, I forgot to make one very, very important point. And I alluded to it when I said that, don't wait for marching orders from Norm and myself or Jim DeMint or others out there. But leadership does not start with Norm or me or anybody else. Leadership starts with each and every person. That's true of any organization. It doesn't start with the president, the CEO, the chairman, whatever. And when you've got an operation where everybody is showing leadership, you've got one strong operation, one strong organization. So all of you have the opportunity to provide leadership. And in today's world with the internet out there, you can do so much that was inconceivable 20 years ago. So you are the leaders you've been waiting for. Please lead. Yes, sir.
Speaking to your purple cow thesis, okay, would you respond to this? This is something I learned back in the early 30s. I'm 88, by the way. I never saw a purple cow. I hope I never see one. But I would rather see than be one.
I've seen that many times. That's a well-known point. So thank you for sharing that with me. I keep trying to memorize it. I have a hard time, but the essence is I'd rather see a purple cow than be one. And so it's a well-known point. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Viguerie, I see many fellow Tea Party leaders here, and I'd like to know what your opinion is. A few years back, Acorn was all in the newspaper, and they did a rebranding. They rebranded themselves by changing their names. Do you have any opinion on whether that's a wise decision for Tea Parties across the country to take Tea Party out of their name, and therefore they can't be, tied into how the media wants to portray them?
A very, very good question. Yes, Acorn did rebrand themselves, but remember they've got a couple of friends in the national mainstream media, like thousands. I remember having this very same conversation in the 1960s and the 1970s. Regarding the conservative, the word conservative. It was not popular then. I mean, you were a pariah if you were known as a conservative. I mean, you were some kind of three-headed monster. And the way the Tea Party is described today, you have no idea, how much better that is than the way we were described back in the 60s. We were racist, bigots, neo-Nazis. It was horrendous out there. But we stuck with it, okay? And one person changed it all for us. Who was that? Reagan, exactly. Reagan changed it, and now very few people say they want to be known as a liberal. They've abandoned the word liberal. It's now progressive, okay? Nobody says they're a liberal today. So we are now sitting on top of the heap with our name conservative. So I wouldn't focus on maybe the Tea Party so much, but focus on the opposition. Don't focus on yourself. Just go out there, define them. Law of the jungle. So it's like law of politics, define or be defined. Another thing you need to do in marketing terms, give the voters a tune they can whistle, okay? Reagan did that. Reagan's basically had two ideas. Government is not the solution, government is the problem, government's too much, tax too much, spend too much, etc. And that communism is evil, and we will transcend it. Isn't that interesting? He used the word, we will transcend communism. Planes didn't fly, armies didn't march, guns didn't fire. One day we woke up and there was no more communism. We transcended it, just like Reagan said. So give the voters a tune they can whistle. Like the Democratic Party is the party of big government. How are those government schools working out for you? How's the government controlling the border? We have an opportunity to define and give the voters a tune they can whistle about the Democrats that will advance our cause. Thank you.
You started off your talk with the four legs of the stool, if you will, and how they had the big government Republicans that were really the enemy, if you will. Then you kind of wrapped up the conversation with, hey, we have to be unified, we'll pull all together, or we're not going to win an election. So my question to you is, when you're having those strategy groups, did you bring them in, or when did you bring them in, or how did you, at what point did you try to bring the thing together?
Well, in our strategy sessions, we only had, those who knew the secret handshake. But there are all kinds of meetings. You have strategy meetings, and by the way, if you think about that here, whether it's in Michigan or Lansing or for this group or that group, and you want to put together a strategy, the person who's the best known in the community may not be part of someone who should be in that meeting. The person who's the most articulate, the person who writes the most well-known books or blogs. What you want are people who, they're very rare, people who are strategic thinkers, people who know how to go from A to Z. Most people don't know how to go from A to B. And that's okay. That's just, not one's better than the other. But when you want to do a strategic planning session, have people there who are strategic thinkers, who can think that way. But now, when we would meet at my home on Wednesday morning, Ed Fullner, who that ran for 30 years, I guess, the Heritage Foundation, he would go out and meet with ExxonMobil. He would go out and meet with Citicorp, and get big contributions from them. But he didn't share what we had just talked about a few hours earlier, And Wired would go meet with the senators and the congressmen and try to, get them to come our way on this piece of legislation, that piece of legislation. So there's meetings that the faithful, the brethren are involved in, and then there's others that you make common bond with these people, but they're not part of your inner circle. Okay.
What can we do as grassroots people that don't have a ton of money to pour in when you have organizations like the Chamber that have a ton of money to pour in, and they're serving special interests instead of we the people?
Yeah, I'm looking. I've got, I won't take your time here, but I've got a couple pages in here of photographs with of our enemies out there. And Tom Donahue, the Chamber of Commerce, is one of them, along with Carl Rove and others there. But the fact that our opponents have lots of money, that's just not a problem. It really is. Yeah, we'd like to have all the money they've got. But we've been very successful over the years with spending a fraction of what they want. Ted Cruz was elected to the Senate, spending 10-15% of what Dewhurst, the incumbent lieutenant governor, spent there. And so we can beat this. I was at dinner last week with Dan Patrick, the new lieutenant governor of Texas, and he ran against Dewhurst, who is self-funded, is very wealthy individual. And if you do the four horsemen, if you brand yourself, okay, you got to hold the marketplace, you position yourself, differentiate yourself, benefit, you can compete against them. So, right now, the Chamber of Commerce, if a Chamber of Commerce candidate is running, and they've got massive resources, but you're successful in branding them as a member of the establishment, I mean, that's a stake in their heart. America right now is poised to throw out the establishment, thanks to somewhat Bernie Sanders, but a whole lot of what Ben Carson and Ted Cruz, but mostly Trump, has done. So if ever you're going to get rid of rhino Republicans, this is the election season. You must get out there now.
Quick question, does that America poised to get rid of rhino Republicans, does that flow down to local races in local areas where there are low information Republican voters?
Oh, absolutely. But remember, the low information voters are operating there. They vote for president, governor, senator, legislative, school board. Absolutely. Remember, you must define them. You must brand them. And you brand them as being part of the establishment. I mean, that's going to be a cross that I don't know how they're going to handle, because America is just fed up and sick and tired. I mean, between the vote of Trump and Carson and Cruz, you're getting close to 65, 2/3 of the vote out there on just three candidates that are anti-establishment. So you put that bullseye of establishment on the back of these candidates at any level. And you have the ability to do that, with the internet, with talk radio, direct mail. You can operate very effectively, And we've done it thousands of times. And so don't get hung up on the fact you don't have all the money and so nothing you can do about it. You can use judo here, sort of thing, and use their strength against them. They got all this money. People are sick and tired of these establishment candidates with all this money. You can use their strength against them very effectively.
We notice in the Tea Party meetings and Republican meetings, conservative PACs, whatever, there are not a lot of young people. I'm talking in their 20s. There's a few political nerds been raised real well in their homes and they're aware of the problems, but the rest are not aware. What's kind of the couple silver bullets that we need to target the issues that are most important, that you think are most important to the youth, the 20s crowd in America?
That's a long list of examples of how we've done a very, very poor job of marketing. I mean, the young people's vote should be our vote. The debt out there, in 11 years, the government will be able to afford two things: entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, and interest on the debt, and nothing else. And that is on Shannon's back, and Grant, and these other young people here. And just that one issue alone, we should own the youth vote. But that's nothing, quite frankly, that you can focus on and worry about here. But it's something that people at the national level need to be doing. But the youth vote should be ours. And you got to think about these things in a very original, creative way. For example, in the 2012 election, a lot of Republicans lost because of war on women, right? And the Democrats branded us as being anti-women. They tried that again in 2014 to zero effect. Why? The world had moved on. And the issue that replaced war on women, and the Republicans did this, by the way, what replaced it was national security. It moved the dial with young women, particularly. What was happening in the Middle East, the beheadings, immigration, that moved the dial with women vote. And the Democrats in 2014 were like generals who fight the last war. And the Democrats in 2014 were fighting the last war. So going forward, we have to, pick the issues that are relevant at this time. And this issue of the debt is huge, and that should be a major opportunity for us with young people. One thing I forgot to say earlier, and it is, the voters, by the way, do not like establishment Republicans. They just don't. Republicans had the Congress in 2006, and they lost it. And they lost more seats in 2008, and they lost the White House. And they lost the White House in 2017. In the face of the opposition in 2006, 2008, 2012, I could go back for many years of history. The face of the opposition to the Democrats was not us. It was Karl Rove, George Bush, Denny Hastert, Bill Frist, John Boehner, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy. People don't like them. And they said, nope, not going to do it. 2010, change. Karl Rove is nowhere to be seen, nor is Boehner or Mitch McConnell. What did voters see as the opposition to the Democrats in 2010? Mike Lee, Marco Rubio, Rush, Hannity, Levin. People like that. Gave the Republicans a big victory. 2014, same thing. Karl Rove and the others, Boehner, Mitch McConnell, nowhere to be seen. And we control the microphone. Some of us just went almost ballistic in September and October, trying to, and had lots and lots of meetings, spent lots and lots of money with national conservative leaders. And we said in this last election cycle that we're not going to look to Reince Priebus at the Republican National Committee or anybody else. Enemies list in the book too. And I gave him an autographed copy one night. He was very excited to get it until he turned the page. I know that because his aide told me when he took him home that night. In 2014, we got together and we said we're going to try to nationalize the election. We only win elections in one circumstances, and that's when they're nationalized. Tip O'Neill famously said, all politics is local. Baloney. It is false, that it is not true. Elections are nationalized. And whenever elections are local, as Tip O'Neill famously said, we lose. Because the Democrats are a deliverer of services. You need a pothole fixed, you know, you need your Social Security check, you know, call the Democrats. They'll take care of it. That's what they do. They're a government party. And so when we have big ideas, Reagan, you know, communism, you know, the national debt, that's when we win. So we wanted to nationalize the election. And McCain did not nationalize the election Romney in 2012, and we lost. And in 2014, conservatives at the national level, and Conservative HQ, my website, was heavily involved in nationalizing the election around a few issues. The illegal activities, shredding the Constitution, executive orders, illegal activities of the administration, failure to secure the border, national security in the Mideast. On those three issues, we nationalized the election. Tom Tillis in North Carolina was losing and turned that election around. And other elections out there, Brownback in Kansas, etc., because we nationalized around 3 or 4 issues. And Obamacare, that was the other one there. And the Democrats, the Republicans didn't want to talk about it. We did as conservatives. And we have that power now at the national, state, and local level with the internet, talk radio, Rush and Levin, and all the things that we do with the internet. Thank you very much.
Well, sir, you've done us proud today, and we certainly enjoyed your speech, and we will take your great wisdom to heart. And thank you so much.